fascinating situation with Jake Stringer's contract. He's never really been able to cash in on his amazing star power, just given the circumstances and the way that he left the Western Bulldogs, signed a 3-year deal 3 years ago. So 13-4 for the year, a direct goal assist a game, 6 score assists this season. He's in white-hot form. Essendon will only give him a 2-year deal. They don't believe that there are rival suitors out there. He will want 3-year deals, as I said, to try and cash in on that spectacular form. Fascinating to see whether he can try and get himself into that kind of form across a full season, or Essendon just has to relent. Friday Night Lights right now, he gets to star. Just a left field solution. Now, Sydney Stack, the Richmond player, he once had a clause in his contract. If he came back to the pre-season in elite shape, he got a financial incentive. I just wonder what Essendon will eventually do with Jake Stringer's contract.
If I'm Jake Stringer, I'm taking the 2 and running. I'm signing it that quick with the ink will dry down the pen and be out the door. What would you do?
Oh, look, if I'm Essendon, it needs to be one by one by one. I mean, if they're prepared to offer him 2, I can understand that. That'll be somewhere between, what I think will give Jake Stringer the best chance, and probably you've got to work with a stick a little bit with Jake. I think over his career, I think he's shown if he gets comfortable, you don't get the best out of him. So I thought one by one would be better for him and for Essendon, in my opinion.
So they'd have to be confident that another club's not going to take him, or he's not going to jump to another club. What do you think? Do you think there'll be other clubs lined up for him?
Yeah, I think there would be suitors if he put himself on the market, but whether or not he'd be getting the 3 years, I doubt whether there'd be a 3-year offer. I think too, Geordie, if I'm managing Jake Stringer, I'm saying, listen, let's take the 2, make the most of it, and the 3rd will come along if you get the job done.
I think it's a story we've seen before, so that's why no club is probably knocking on the door to get him, and that's why Essendon want to keep him on edge and make sure that he plays. But I think you could structure your year 1 deal around incentives and games and bonuses that then would trigger a second year at good money. But I mean, if he can play at a high level for the entirety of the season, I still think 2 years is probably where he sits. I wouldn't give him anything longer than that.
Essendon be trying to create a situation where he's the icing on the cake. For a long time he came in with the 3-year deal, and I think they were looking for him to do more than they need him to do right now. Now he can just finish. And if they can improve as a team as the year progresses, potentially the 2-year deal is looking good for him and for them, but they don't rely on him as much by the end of the year. I think that would make sense.
He's a match winner. That's the bottom line. He is a genuine match winner, and maybe they haven't won one or 2 of these games.
Is the key, though, health for him? Has he not had a good run with injury and been able to get himself in the best shape over pre-season to allow himself to have a strong start of the year like he has, Gav?
Chicken and egg, isn't it? Correct. I think there'd be aspects of it that he would have to take responsibility for himself over the journey. He's been in the system long enough now. Penny's got to drop.
But now you pay for it.
Now I think his body's probably... And then the body's failed him maybe because the preparation hasn't been quite where it needs to be. But at the end of the day, he's kicked 13 goals. And in a year where, I mean, we talk about, and Ralphie and the media talk about recontracting players across the board at astronomical numbers that has my head just shaking. Old school, I know. But these are what's going to be available. There ain't many genuine bona fide match winners out there.
It's funny because a lot of players... Some players now are getting paid on potential. Now, we've seen, especially young players, and they move around to clubs. I think it's more about what he's and how he's conducted himself off-field that makes other clubs a little bit hesitant. But certainly, we've seen his potential. So you say, well, why wouldn't he be rewarded for that potential? But it's just been few and far between. The consistency hasn't been there.
If you're a coach, you'd prefer to have a player that gives you 10 7 out of 10s in a row than a 9 1 week and a 2 the next.
Well, it depends how many you got on your list, isn't it?
Well,
isn't it depends on the makeup of your list?
Potentially, but in a 23-man team, if you have, say, 3 2s on any given round, it's going to be really hard to win. It's a team game. You rely on everyone to contribute. Yeah. So if you've got 7 out of 10s, you can rely on that.
But the uniqueness of his qualities, though, and he's the match-winning quality. So how many of those match winners are in the competition? That's the enticing thing. You've got to ask yourself that question.
You don't have to have a bad game every 3rd, 4th week to be a match winner. There's match winners that get around and do it every 2nd or 3rd week.
There's one that's playing in the opposition tonight who used to be the captain, who about 4 years ago, anyone who was prepared to make an offer could have dragged Tex Walker out of that joint. And he sits there today, penny drops, albeit later in life, has some off-field stuff that was confrontational for himself. Comes out and has his best year ever last year, Taylor Walker. So
there's fines out there.
When you got him in your group and they're there and they've got the capacity to win football games like Jake Stringer does, well, it's incumbent upon you to be able to drag it out of him.
That's probably why he stayed at Essendon for so long. Because they don't want to get rid of him. They want to try and unlock what the potential is. But I think he would agree, everyone would agree, it's the way that he's probably come back year after year that's hampered his ability to play at a high level. But I think also the inclusion of Gresham. You know, Gresham's now that sort of dangerous. I know he's not a Jake Stringer type, but he is that silky centre forward player that can hit the scoreboard. Which may mean there's probably less reliance on Jake Stringer. Jake Stringer's been able to come out of himself a little bit more and play a little bit more freely.
Still done a pretty good job without Peter Wright. Without Wright there. So I think it probably improves again once Wright comes in, takes even more of a load. So it's an interesting one, whether Jake's matured, whether you're willing to roll the dice and give him 3 years and back him in. That he seems to have matured, he seems to be settled off the field and things are in good shape for him. And Scotty, all the best tonight. Can you just tell us a little bit about Jake Stringer's season so far? Sensational last week. We spent about 28 minutes on him before you came on, covering for Nixie. But he's had a fantastic start to the year, mate.
Yeah, he has, and you know, it's just again there are lessons everywhere, and you know, Jake's had to. You know, we talk about the physical side of the game, which everyone can see pretty clearly, but the mental side of the game's one that's a bit intangible because it can't be. It's hard to measure it, it's hard to see it, and Jake's been really open that he had to get that side of his life right, let alone his game right. He's got that right, and that's transferred into him doing the work physically, and he's in the best shape of his career. So that enables him to play his best footy, and we all know what he can do when he's at his best.